Today we'll be remaking the lead from Rüfüs Du Sol's Innerbloom using Unisynth's Unisynth. You can find a link to the free preset in the description below. First, I want to give this lead some context to live in. To do this, I'll stem split the reference and grab the drums and bass from a section that features the lead. The synth stem contains both the pads and the lead, so we can't use that. Instead, I've grabbed the synth pads from an earlier section in the song, in which the lead wasn't playing. That gives us this. So it's not identical, the pads are a bit emptier and the drums are slightly different, but it's similar enough that our lead patch will feel at home in this mix. So I couldn't find any confirmation on the gear used for this song, but in live concert footage I see John from Rüfüs Du Sol playing the part on what looks like a Prophet, and I could imagine this sound making sense on a Prophet, so I'll take an educated guess that he might have used a Prophet on the record as well. So start by opening up a couple of Prophet oscillators and initializing a Prophet style amp envelope and filter envelope. It might be helpful to be able to control oscillator 2 with a macro later, so set that up. For now we can keep it turned down. Now add a filter. The default state variable LP24 should be fine. Set its cutoff somewhere in the mid-range with a bit of resonance and drive. Now modulate the cutoff with envelope 2. Turn up the amp level. Next, set up the amp and filter envelopes. Both should have sort of lazily fast attacks, somewhere between like 20 to 50 milliseconds, and the filter attack should be slightly longer than the amp attack to get that trumpety transient. And both should be set up as pretty generic ADSR shapes with moderate decay, sustain, and release. The amp release should be a little bit longer than the filter release, so that after the trumpety filter attack, the low-passed tails linger and gradually fade out. So it sounds a little bit like we have this trumpet lead, but then a bit of a pad behind it, but it's actually the same sound, just that the tail is more low-passed than the attack. Okay, now boost the overall level with some gentle compression. And give this a moderate release. This sound is clearly going for vibey and analog, so let's saturate it with some tape. Now mix in a little bit of oscillator 2 for a bit of texture using macro 1. Try different Prophet style wave shapes. This one sounds pretty close. And maybe detune the oscillator a bit. Now for the spatial effects. We need something with bright, brassy width with a medium decay, so it's sort of like the early reflection algorithm that you might find on a reverb, and also a long haul mixed in quietly with a bright tail. For the former, let's use a convolver insert, and for the latter, a reverb insert. Let's put both after the compressor, but before the tape. First, the convolver. Start with the preset Ice House. Switch mode to parallel processing and set the mix medium-low. Then tune the rest of the parameters until this sort of metallic ringing texture on the sides of the stereo field sound pretty close to the reference. Now the longer reverb. Assign the wet reverb to a macro for easy automation. And high pass the reverb to keep it both bright and pushed back a little bit in the mix. This won't be exactly the sort of reverb that was used on the original. My guess is that it's probably a single reverb that has really defined early reflections, but this is getting pretty close to the same result. We could still use a touch more width. Let's add some chorus and delay mixed in quietly. These can go before the compressor. For the delay, it's just a single 8th note slap with a bit of stereo offset. I think this probably wasn't used in the original, probably we're just hearing some pre-delay on whatever reverb was used, but again this gets us pretty close to the same effect. Assign this slap to a macro for easy automation. Okay, finally the most important part of the sound, the pitch modulation. The pitch modulation is random, so replicating its vibe perfectly is a tall order. Even Rüfüs Du Sol doesn't replicate the exact pitch modulation from the record when they perform live. But that won't stop me from trying. I've pre-made 2 LFOs, one of which replicates the pitch modulation from this section, and the other replicates the pitch modulation from the phrase when we first hear this synth lead earlier in the song. Either of these is sufficient for achieving the vibe of the original sound. Just modulate the fine-tuning of both oscillators with a 20% bipolar modulation from the LFO of your choice. And last but not least, some basic EQ. Put this before the tape insert, shelve down everything below the mid-range, shelve up a bit of air, and boost a touch of upper mids. And it won't hurt to clean up the low end a bit with a high-pass filter at the very end of the effects chain. In this part of the song, I've reduced the patch by 0.5 dB. I've narrowed the reverb width at the end of the phrase so it recedes into the distance in the center of the stereo field. I've removed the delay slap from the first note in the phrase, and I've decreased the reverb mix during the pause in the middle of the phrase. LFO2 works better for this outro section, but for a better match on the lead's first section, try switching the pitch modulator to LFO1. So this is Innerbloom by Rüfüs Du Sol. Check the link in the description to download the free preset. And I hope this was helpful. Cheers.